All the best stories start with a call to adventure. Frodo in Lord of the Rings, Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, and Shrek in Shrek. Each called to go further, to look deeper, and strive to find a hidden treasure that will forever change them. Since moving aboard Indioko, we've had more than our fair share of excitement. Discovering incredible waterfalls, sailing inside a jungle, and even diving with the world's largest population of sharks. And now, in French Polynesia, we feel drawn toward a new adventure. To travel somewhere only a handful of people ever visit, in the hope of discovering a truly rare gem.
Like all good adventurers, we need to go on a quest. It's been a while since we've been on a quest, and we've decided that we're going to go on a quest for the very elusive black pearl, something that is found supposedly throughout French Polynesia, and yet every dive, every snorkel, every free dive that we have done, we have not found a single pearl anywhere. However, we have heard that there is a very small, unvisited atoll right up in the north of the Tuamotus called Ahe. And allegedly, they have black pearls. So we're gonna go find out. It's gonna take us about a day and a half, 2 days to get there, I reckon. Pretty easy sail up north, but either way, we have to get Indy ship shape and ready to go.
So we are determined to time the exit pass on this correctly this time. When we came in a couple of weeks ago, it was treacherous, let's say. We really tried to wait for the conditions to die down, and then we thought they had, and we went in and got completely caught in standing waves, and it was a little bit terrifying. But we spent 24 hours sitting in the village, watching the pass, ignoring all of the predictions online that don't seem to be correct, and we're hoping that in about half an hour, it'll just change around current from incoming to outgoing, or outgoing to incoming, and it'll be all nice and flat and calm. But there's always room for error.
Especially with us.
Well, yes, that goes without saying, doesn't it? It's our specialty.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think we're forcing it to get there in time, and then hopefully we'll spend like half an hour to an hour just sat outside or inside watching what's happening, and when it hits that nice no waves in any direction moment, that's definitely going to happen. That's when we're going to go.
So we can still see some white caps at the pass just inside, which shows us that the current is coming in and then churning up and swirling the water once it gets in. So that should be dying off. We're just going to wait around until it's almost flat, and then we'll go out. And as soon as we get through the little sort of churny water and into the pass, it is all flat from there on out to the outside. So it is almost high tide, and I think we've timed this pretty well. We've even got time, if you're wondering why we're going around in circles, because we're just recalibrating the compass for our autopilot to make sure that we don't have to hand steer the whole way. So yeah, 2 birds, 1 stone. We've got to wait for the pass anyway, so we'll get a job done. You reckon how'd over there?
Highly technical and skilled operation.
Everyone's gonna get dizzy.
Yeah, me too. Our aging and decrepit autopilot, which we did upgrade to a slightly less aging and decrepit autopilot, has been really struggling recently with maintaining a compass heading, which isn't ideal.
No, it's not great. That's its primary function.
So earlier today I rewired, we had a spare, it's called a flux gate compass. It's basically a very fancy little compass that wires in. And I rewired a new one of those. Well, an old new one of those.
A replacement one of those.
Yeah, a backup one. And so we're just going to try and retrain it and see if that's enough to make it wake up.
Positive vibes, and I'm sure it'll be fine. So it's maybe not perfectly flat calm, but this is so much better than on our way in. And I can see ahead where the current stops and the water gets flat. So there's 2 markers that we just lined up to know that we're heading on the right kind of channel, the deepest part. Deepest part is only about 4 meters, so it's not great. But as soon as we get past the second marker, it goes to perfectly flat and we're through the worst of it and out into the ocean. But I'm pretty happy with our timing today. compared to what we were perhaps expecting. I'll take this one. Whew, we are through into the flat bit. It got incredibly shallow just before we reached here, and I looked down and suddenly saw a very vibrant coral reef right beneath us.
2.1 we got down to.
Now, look at this beauty. Well done. I was maybe not quite as patient as I should have been, big surprise.
Just a little bit later would have been nice.
How much current did we have? Like, it was obviously still coming in.
Yeah, so, whoa, bait ball. That's wild.
All right, screw that. We can talk about the current later. Fishing line's out. We're going hunting. All right, lines are in. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this because it is right in the line of where the sunshine is hitting the water, and I have the wrong lens on the camera, but there are literally hundreds of birds circling really low over the water. There is another one not that far away, and I've just seen a third one in between them. This is absolutely wild. That would be such a nice start to the trip if we caught a tuna.
Like, there has to be a whale or a dolphin or something, or surely.
And they're not even really getting out of the way of the boat.
They're not really diving friendly.
I can hear them all now.
Look to your left. Wow.
They're still coming, all of these birds. I don't know where they're coming from. They're still appearing. I don't think we caught any fish though as a result of that.
No, we didn't catch any fish, but I think maybe there was just like, there was a ball of bait fish, because these are quite small birds that don't eat big fish. So I wonder if it's just that there's a big school of bait fish, but usually that would mean that the big fish come from underneath and kind of stir them up.
Big fish, get on it. There was a meal there for you. All right, we got distracted by the birds and the fish. What were you saying about the pass before that happened?
Oh, sorry, yes. Okay, so the pass we could have done with waiting maybe another half an hour or so. We had 2 knots, at least 2 knots on our nose.
Okay.
So that's why we had those slightly larger waves, and it meant the positioning of the boat. In some ways it's good because it means that our rudders are very effective. But if we oversteer at all, then basically all that current would hit the side of the boat and just turn us around and would fire off into the island. It was a little bit kind of dicey, but not nearly as dicey as on the way in.
No, exactly. So let's pretend that's a win.
Yeah, that was deliberate. Absolutely what we intended to do. So now we just need to decide if we have enough wind to actually sail anywhere. Because I know we said we're on a quest, and quests have challenges, but quests tend to have a bit of a pace to them, and 2 knots doesn't feel very exciting to me.
Yeah, so we decided to leave at what we hoped was the best possible time for getting out, but it does mean that there's not really that much wind until this evening. So it might be a slow start. Maybe it could just be like, imagine it was in slow motion to like really up the ante.
Or should we just play it back at double speed so it plays at what would be realistically normal?
Oh, there we go. We're mostly downwind, so it's only going to be in Genoa anyway. Let's try it.
Easy.
That is one tiny upgrade that we made to the boat, which has actually made such a difference. This little jammer on the side of the helm seat, we only use it when we are unfurling the Genoa. Usually one person is at the helm and the other person is pulling the sheet. And so we can't really leave the helm to get down to the lock down here. And it just gives us enough control that whoever's at the helm can let out the furling line, but jam it if we need to, or if they need to go and do something else or suddenly need 2 hands on the wheel. We don't use it often, like when we're sailing, but for such a, I don't know, like a couple of dollars or something, it has made such a difference.
Franny just did that look of, are you even letting go? Because this is really hard work.
It was a lot harder than I was expecting it to be. I suppose there's not much wind, so the
There's
wind
nothing
isn't
to help
helping.
it at all.
Oh.
I'll slow down. How's that? That will really help.
Yeah, look at that. I'm going to put it on the wind.
What? So this is going to be horrendously fast. 3.5 knots. It's Velcro on one side.
Yeah, there's no Velcro on here though.
There used to be. Did we lose the Velcro?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I don't know. This is the scratchy one, and this one doesn't have any fuzz on it. It must have been stuck on.
I don't remember losing that. Bummer.
Oh, I've got to take the Genoa down again and fix it.
So we're just dropping the one rain curtain we do have because I'm not able to make it out here, but essentially we have a rain cloud back here where we just came from in Raraka, and another one hiding out just in front of us here on the next atoll up. So we're fairly sure we're going to get hit by something at some point in the next, whatever it's going to be, 36 hours that we're sailing. We may as well try and make the cockpit a little bit drier. Of course, we're going to put up the full rain enclosure that Bryony built for us, especially for this occasion, so that we wouldn't have to worry about any rain getting inside. So all sides of the cockpit will be enclosed in perfect, transparent Perspex glass.
In about a year's time when I finish them. I made one and I'm not good at finishing things, so I made one, that'll do.
Starting things.
As long as we just always turn the boat so the rain is coming on our port side, we'll be fine.
You just circle around the storm constantly. That's what happens when you do that. Just, why is it always raining on the port side? It's always wet there.
Well, we've dodged the rain all afternoon. The sun is now starting to set and the clouds are making it look so dramatic and incredible. But there is a massive rain cloud coming up behind us and I feel like I'm starting to get some drizzle, so our luck may have run out. You probably can't quite see it on the horizon over there is Kauai, the next atoll north of here. We're just sort of swinging around the bottom of it and then it should just be a straight shot up to Ahe. So yeah, things should get a little bit easier. We may have to jibe overnight, but we'll see what happens with all these storm clouds around.
So I think I drew the lucky straw this evening. I'm not sure what the phrase would be there. Basically, Bryony and I made dinner earlier, then she's gone down for a sleep. It's only about 10 o'clock now, and roughly I reckon I'll clock off between 11 and 12. I'll get a bit of sleep, and then maybe I'll take over at 3, maybe 4 in the morning, depending how well she slept. Overall, conditions have just been far too easy. Since we left, it has pretty much been wind totally consistent on our port quarter at the back of the boat here, running at between 10, 15 knots. And it has barely been an issue. It's barely moved. We've just had the Genoa up as full Genoa, pulling us along through the water. And to be honest, even the waves have been pretty under control because they're all behind us. So it's been very, very relaxed. At the moment, we're heading towards Fakarava North Pass, which is kind of the wrong direction, typical. We're kind of heading fairly west right now. And the goal will be that we'll put a Gybing, and that'll put us on a more of a northern track. And that should take us straight to the door of Ahe, where we're heading up to in the north. That's the plan anyway. Hopefully it all works out like that. My goal was to keep heading west, getting us on a better and better angle for that jibe, and hopefully get us as far west as we can for when Bryony and I switch over. Because then we can together jibe to Genoa, swing it to the other side of the boat, and then I should be able to get a nice solid night's sleep, at least for a couple hours. Anyway, I thought I would share a little bit about why we are on this quest. As I said earlier, it's all to do with this tiny little black pearl. We've been told that they are basically unique to French Polynesia. And you might have seen pearls in terms of those white perfect spheres that you see in like Marge Simpson's necklace. Probably Kamala Harris has one, I would imagine. I don't know why, but yeah, perfect spherical, that's the word, white pearls. Well, here, the black pearls are almost like metallic in nature, the way they look. They are so rich in colors and with a base black behind them. And we've seen pictures of them, and they're not all perfect spheres. In fact, I don't know what you'd call it as imperfections or not. I actually quite like the look of them. They make, they produce these pearls that sometimes look like teardrops, sometimes they have grooves in them, sometimes they're just kind of wonky like a jelly bean, I guess. They're just different, and they look so unusual and so vibrant with all these deep colors in them that we can't help but try and find some. And we've been searching everywhere, and we've not seen a single one yet, which is ridiculous. However, we think up in Ahe is going to be our best chance to maybe find out a bit more about where they grow, how they grow, and basically what they actually are.
It is almost midnight. It is changeover time. I have just had a few hours sleep, feeling lovely, ready for a nice night shift, hoping it doesn't rain. So we're going to take this opportunity to jibe now, and then hopefully, I've not even looked at the charts. I'm just assuming it's the right time. That means I can blame you if it's not. basically rained all night, but the sun has now come up. It is a new day. It is still kind of grey skies everywhere, but at least we are dry. The wind has picked up kind of as we expected. So really, I'm just trying to slow the boat down. We currently are going to arrive well before sunrise tomorrow. In fact, we may even arrive before midnight. So the most difficult, or at least the most frustrating part about cruising in the 2MO2s is that we can't just time our arrival for daylight. We have to time our arrival and our departure actually for these passes, the times that we can enter or exit the passes. We're always aiming for slack tide so that it is easiest when the least amount of water is funneled through these really narrow gaps into the lagoons. But it means that if you miss a window, you have to wait at least 6 hours until the next time. So we quite often have to spend time zigzagging backwards and forwards outside an atoll until it's time to go in. And I suspect that is what we're going to be doing tonight. At least so far, it has been a very, very easy sail, super cruisy, downwind. We're really not having to do very much at all. Yeah, it's quite boring really, which is always the best problem to have on a passage. Well, it has turned into quite a nice afternoon of sailing. We have been quite busy the last couple of weeks with filming and editing and a few things going on in the background. So it's always quite nice when we have a couple of days offshore to just slow down and relax. And the only goal for the day is to make sure that we don't crash and to make sure that we're vaguely going in the right direction. As long as we get to our destination, that's like goal achieved. If we do nothing else, that's more than okay. So I was really looking forward to like, oh, I'll watch some Olympics while we're on this passage. There's so many hours of sports I could catch up on. But I forgot that we're going somewhere like really remote. There is absolutely no landmass for miles, hundreds of miles in any direction. And so our Starlink knows that we're offshore and we don't pay for the extra data when we're sailing. So yeah, we're completely disconnected right now, which has scuppered my plans for watching anything. Also, if you watched last week's episode, you might remember that I dropped my phone in the sea, so that is completely dead. I have found an old one that I'm using as a backup on board, but it didn't have any like downloaded podcasts or anything, so I've got nothing to listen to. So yeah, I'm just watching the waves and watching the clouds. At least it's sunny, I guess. Well, the night was pretty uneventful. We jibed our way around the corner of the atoll and then put the main up so that we had a little bit more control and just did a few tacks, a few zigzags up and down for a few hours. But now the sun is coming up, we are starting to be able to see things and we are on our final approach to the pass. I think we've timed it quite well. The very, very, very first pass that we could get was the sunrise one. And there's a few clouds which made me think we weren't going to be able to see enough, but they're sort of clearing a little bit and I can see that the trees are now green instead of black shadows, so that is a good sign. I think this pass is supposed to be quite an easy one.
I think so, yeah. I realised we've never explained how passes actually like exist.
Yes, true.
To be clear. So like atolls in French Polynesia all used to be mountains, which is very weird to imagine because there's no mountains for hundreds of miles.
Yeah.
But basically these mountains formed and then reefs grew around the outside of the mountains and then the mountains just kind of crumbled away over millennia and left the reefs. So all the atolls have these little rivers that run out, or used to run down the mountain and run out them. And that's what now creates the passes. It's basically an old river that used to come down a mountain. The mountain's left, but the river's still there, kind of. So yeah, some are deep, some are shallow, some are fast, some are slow. This one, as you say, is supposed to be kind of fairly deep, fairly easy.
We think so. There's not many people who have come to this atoll either, similar to the last one that we were in, so we don't have that much information. But I spoke to one person online who said that they managed to get through it. So we're taking that as it means it's possible.
Just a point of order. Do we know what kind of boat they had?
No, I actually have no idea.
Yes. They were in a sailing dinghy and they lifted the dagger board. That's what happened. Okay, good.
Woohoo!
So, you know the one not so good thing about Zora?
What?
So Zora has integrated everything on the boat. We love it to bits. We can do all of our maintenance, all of our logging, everything about the boat, not just navigation. However, we now have these digital readouts for the RPMs on our engines, and I need them to be the same number. And these are analog levers with wires by them, so I sort of sit here and gently tap them forward, and then the numbers almost match, and then they wriggle a little bit because they're engines. It's so infuriating. I do love it, but it's so infuriating.
It just gives you something to concentrate on if you've got
Instead
a
of
really
this.
boring motoring passage.
The one note that we had about this pass was that the slack tide, like when there's zero current, is actually an hour after high tide. So it's now 6 o'clock in the morning. High tide was about an hour ago, and so we thought we'd give it a go.
Well, we timed it perfectly, apart from the rain. The clouds that were building up overhead have just started sprinkling, but it's not too bad. We are just trying to avoid one shallow patch on the starboard side, and there is a marker pin on the left-hand side, so we are sort of threading the needle through a slightly narrow bit, but I don't think it's going to be too scary, and things are definitely pretty flat, and the wind is... Okay, well, it's 25 knots of wind. It's maybe not died off that much, but you'll be fine.
I'm just making this look good. I'm sitting here steering through a narrow pass, eating crackers, 5 in the morning. Easy, easy.
Sorry if the lens is all completely covered in rain by now. We are mostly through the pass. I think we're in about 6 meters of depth right now, and we can see the shallow patch just off our starboard side here. So far, so good. It is all looking nice and simple. Just how we like it.
And that is us inside the pass. We have made it to Ahe. I have also got dressed for the day. I've changed out of my night watch gear into my whatever I would normally wear, which is... It was essentially my pajamas with lots of warm layers on the top. But hey, it's daytime now. Ahe already feels really different because there's like loads of little houses along the shore.
Yeah, so Ahe's an interesting one because it has a solid history in pearl farming. So at one time, this entire atoll would have just been covered in pearl floats, and at the bottom of that would be the oysters. I'm not sure.
Shows how much we know, doesn't it?
I was sounding really good up to then. Those little clammy shell things that grow pearls. So yeah, basically what you see is the remnants of an entire industry that used to live here, because it actually kind of emptied out quite a lot. So that's my guess, what all these buildings that you probably can't make out, but we can. That's what they used to be, pearl farms.
Yeah, it's really strange because we've just come from Raraka where there was basically nobody. There was certainly no other cruisers, but there was also just nobody else there. And here, not many sailors come here, but I get the feeling that it's a lot more kind of, I don't know, local, traditional, that people actually live here, but it's not sort of set up for tourism. So I'm just really interested. There's a village down at the bottom that we're heading to, and I'm just really interested to see what it feels like and get to know some of the people here. It should be really fun.
So I know we said no one actually comes here, but I've got some bad news. Well, actually it's not bad news, it's good news, isn't it? There's one other boat already over in the anchorage. However, we have read that you can only fit 2 boats in the anchorage, and that is also subject to weather conditions. So fingers crossed there's enough room for us. They are also, I think, a catamaran, so we kind of all take a bit more space than others. But I think we'll make it work. Certainly looking at where the weather's coming from for the next few days, I reckon we'll be okay. So we'll sneak in and we'll make some new friends. For those who are judging us now, I think you have every right. Oh, that was your fault. You were standing on the rope. This one's the furling line. This one has to lead that way off the boat.
We're so good at this. I'm going to wiggle it.
Professional wiggle, please.